Soundheads, and welcome back to the workshop. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to create this dark and moody goth rock track typical of Zymox or Floodland era Sisters of Mercy or Disintegration era Cure. This tutorial is based on the Darkwave Goth tutorial found in Computer Music issue 288. Now sadly CM is no more, but I thought I'd revisit and expand upon the topics demonstrated in that lesson. Even so, the original tutorial used some guitar and vocal audio tracks that were available with the download. But luckily all those files are now available for everyone to grab from the link I'll put in the description. Now also, the original tutorial used a lot of the free software that Computer Music distributed with each issue. I, however, will be recreating the track using many of the built-in tools in Cubase. I will, however, also use a few free third-party plugins that I will also link to in the description. Computer Music may be dead, but not forgotten. So, if you want to follow along, fire up your copy of Cubase and let's get going. Okay, here we are in an empty Cubase project. Let's start with the drums. Those old 80s goth bands often used a drum machine, so I'm going to try and capture that aesthetic. Rigid quantization, a certain artificial veneer to the sound, and a limited palette of colors. I could be lazy for now and import some sort of 606 or 808 style drum loop from that era just to save time, but I'm going to take a minute to program my own drum loop using GrooveAgent, the drum machine built into Cubase. So let's come up here to the plus. We're going to add an instrument and let's go to the drum submenu and select GrooveAgent and add the track. And there we have the GrooveAgent UI. Let's come up here to the presets, and if I just click the reset, and Electro Pop Kit 1 is the kit I'm going to use. So double click on that and it will load all the samples onto the pads and a couple of patterns as well. That's great. Let's look at the pattern. So, we could program every drum hit from scratch, but to save time, let's check out the patterns in this preset. Yeah, that's really cool. It's kind of cool too. I really like this beat too, so I'm just going to drag this pad out onto the arrangement timeline. You can see there all the MIDI notes have been input for us already, which is great. Okay, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping on the samples first. So I like to color code the pads so that I can see what instrument is which at a glance. So I'm going to make all the kicks red. If I right click and set color, I'm going to do the kicks red, and there's a kick FX up here, do that red as well. The snares and claps I will do blue. So that's color 9, color 9. And the cymbals I will do purple. So that's the hi-hats. Let's see, color 12. The SFX. Yeah, I'm probably not going to use that, but I'll just color code that yellow just so it's its own thing. So now at a glance I can see which pad is which, and then that will come into play when I route these to their own channels later on. Okay, so what I need to do now is just sort of top and tail the samples. You can see this stupidly long tail, so I'm just going to trim those down and do a quick fade out on each sample. All these drum hits don't need to be that long, and I think that will play into that sort of more artificial drum machine aesthetic that I'm going for as well. I mean, I don't really need to do clap effects. I don't really have any intention of using this sample, but I may as well just do the due diligence. Yeah, again, I don't think I'll be using that, so these longer cymbals, I'll just leave those with the longer tail. That makes more sense. So next, I'm just going to tweak the samples a little bit, having sort of done this process quite a few times. I kind of know what little things need to be tweaked. So on kick 2, I'm just going to go into the fine tune and tune it up about sort of 3 o'clock, sort of 70 cents. And I'm going to add a tube filter, add a bit of distortion just to give it a bit of grit. I'm going to make this high pass and then just roll the cutoff down to about just to kill off some of the bottom end in that, just to give it more of a clicky sound. In the volume, I'm just going to turn that down just a little bit. The snare, just boost the volume a little bit. I want the volume to be kind of thwacky, so both of these I'm going to give it a bit of a boost. Maybe that one a bit more. And these maybe, just so they don't trip over each other, I'm just going to pan them just a couple of clicks. Just so maybe they don't trip it over each other in the mix. The kick FX, let's tune this down. Again, maybe just by sort of 40 cents. Make it a bit sort of boomy, and turn the volume down as well a bit. Maybe not that much. And so finally, I'm going to route all of these samples, these pads, to their own output channel. So what I can do, if I click on, or if I select all the red pads, so I'm going to hold down Command or Control and then just select all the red pads, right click and then assign output. I'm going to assign these to the master output. Right now they're assigned to the kit mix, and I'll show you that in a moment, but I'm going to assign them directly to the master, the main channel, and you can see that's reflected down here on this little button too. Now I'm going to do the same thing, Command or Control click the blue pads and assign the output to output 2. And then finally, I'm going to select all of the purple cymbals and assign them to the output 3. And again, we can see that reflected on this yellow button here. So before they were assigned to what is called kit mix, and that's kind of like a sub master channel. If we go to the mixer, we can see we have the agent, the kit mix, and then the master. I'm not really sure the benefit of the kit mix. It's just the default way that it handles it. I prefer assigning them directly to their individual channels. I think that makes more sense when we're doing this sort of thing. All right, that's us done with GrooveAgent. On the timeline, if I select the part and I hit P on my keyboard, you can see it's added the locators to the sort of size and duration of that part. Then if I hit the slash on my numeric keypad on my extended keyboard, or I can come down here and turn the cycle marker on, that now gives me a loop. And we have a nice 4-bar loop that's just going to cycle round. Okay, so if I double click the part, and it opens up in the lower zone, you can see that we have the piano roll at the side, and each of the notes are sort of input as 1/8 notes, which doesn't really make sense for a drum part. So let's close the lower zone, and in the inspector, in the main tab of the inspector, down here I'm going to where it says no drum map. I'm going to click there and then create drum map from instrument. So then it's going to analyze what the pads and the names and the particulars about that instrument, and it's going to create a drum map. So, and then takes a second, and now you can see those 1/8 notes are now input as diamonds, which tells us this is a drum part. These are percussive hits. They're not pitched instruments. They have no real duration. They're all sort of transient hits like you would get on a percussive instrument. So when I open the lower zone again, you can see now I've got the drum editor, and to the left side I no longer have the piano roll. I have all of the information relating to the drum edit. And if I just close that out a little bit, what's really important is the pitch of the note, but also the name of each note that we have here. And we can see we've got kick 1, kick 2, snare 1, clap on, so on, and these all correspond to the pads on GrooveAgent. And if I click on the leftmost column, you can see I can sample or audition those notes, and you can see I have a sort of good overview of the beat. So it's a pretty simple rhythm, and that's typical of the era I'm sort of going for. There's no big, busy, frilly beats, just a good, solid driving rhythm. And if we look, we can see it's a 4-bar loop, but really it's just 2 bars that are repeated. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come up to my toolbar, I'm going to grab my scissor tool, and I'm going to split that at the 3rd measure, and then I'm going to delete that, select that remaining part, hit P again, and now my loop is resized. If I hit Shift F, I can fit the parts into the available window. So now I'm editing one loop rather than having to do the same edits twice. It's much easier to build a loop with our edits and then just duplicate it. So what I want to do now, actually, let me close the lower zone momentarily. Let's just reduce the height of that. I'm going to add a couple of MIDI tracks. So I'm going to come into the Add Track dialog, select MIDI, and actually I wanted to do that twice. I could have come down here and entered 2, but I forgot, so let's just do another one. Okay, so I'm going to double click and label one hi-hats, and double click one and label it snare. This just helps to manage editing and programming later. I like to sort of break things out much as I would in the mixer, break them out into separate channels. I like to break them out into separate MIDI tracks too. Some elements I want to loop, some elements I want to have longer repeating function. So I like to break everything out onto its own MIDI track. And let's just rename the top, just call it drums. I guess it's mainly going to be the kick, but we'll do that in a moment. So in this track, I'm going to, first I want to direct in my routing, my output routing. I'm going to take that to the drums main instrument, and I do that for both of them. So now these are both going to be pointing at the GrooveAgent instrument. So then I should be able to, oh, it's grayed out. I can't use that. Wonder why that's grayed out. Okay, maybe what I will do is I will hold down my Option or my Alt key and duplicate that onto the snare track rather than reprogram again. I'm just going to reuse the information I already have, and maybe now I still can't. Well, so maybe I'll just do create drum map from instrument again, and once again it's given me a drum part rather than a sort of pitched instrument MIDI part. Okay, so the hi-hats I'm actually going to program in by hand. So I'm going to right click to get my pencil tool, draw in a 2-bar part, right click again to get my selector, and I'm also going to create the drum map for this channel too. And if I double click, now I have my now familiar drum editor in the lower zone, and I want to get the hi-hat closed. I'm going to hit Shift F to make sure the whole loop is visible. I'm going to make sure my quantize is set to 1/8. I'm going to right click, grab my drumstick, and then just draw, click and drag all the way across, and release. Right click again to get my cursor. So velocity is all the same. Velocity is input 100, but don't worry about that for now. We will do something to change that up in a moment. So next I'm going to set the quantize to 16th notes, and I'm going to add with the drumstick again on the of 4, 1E and when we count 16th notes. So on the of 4 of the last, let me move that out of the way. So right in there, I'm going to click and drag. So I'm going to set the velocity, not quite a ghost note, but just something that's a little less of a hit. So that's the hi-hats done. Select the main drum loop, and we can see that hi-hats, I've got some hi-hats already programmed. I'm just going to delete them because obviously I've got a hi-hat track. Delete the crash symbol, and let's go back to the hi-hats and put that on the so all the symbols are together. So let's find the crash symbol. Okay, so I'm just going to right click, get the drumstick, and put one right there on the first hit of the first measure. Let's go back to the drum part, and I've got my kick, and I've got the snare. Now we've already duplicated the snare, duplicated this part for the snare track, so I'm going to click and drag and take all of those snare events and get rid of them. And this is a open hi-hat. I'm going to delete that too, so that all I really have now in this part is the kick. Now in the kick, while we're here in the kick part, I want to add, you can see we've got a couple of variations. We've got kick 1 and kick 2. So I'm going to add in some kick 1 events. So let's right click, get my drumstick on the 1, I think on the E of 1E, and then on the 2, and then on the and of 3, and let's see on the of 4, 1E, the E of 4. And let's do that for both measures. I could split this into 2 again, but let's just do this for both measures. So the 1, E, the 2, the 3 and, Well, I have a couple of hits here, so we'll leave those as a sort of variation. So now we've got some syncopated kick drum. Okay, next, the snare. So let's select the snare part. With the snare, it's just a duplicate of the main drum part we had at the beginning. And I've got the kick. There's the snare on there. What else we have? We've got the hi-hat. So all of this stuff is taken care of with the other tracks. I'm going to select all my hi-hat events. I'm going to delete that. I've got this open hi-hat. I'm going to delete that. I've got my kick events here. Let's get rid of those. And I've got these kick events here. Now, so all I've got basically is on the 2 and 4, I have a snare here. So I'm going to add some further to that. On the for snare 2, I'm going to add a hit on the 2 of each measure, and for the clap 1 on the 4 of each measure. So we have some slight variation. And actually what I think I'll do when we get my selector tool back, with the clap events, I'm going to lower the velocity. So it's about 60, 70. Okay. So let's see what that sounds like. All right, I'm liking that so far. Back in the kick part, let's double click that. I'm going to add a, where's that kick effects? It's sort of like a knocky sound. I'm just going to put one of those on the 1, I think, probably just on the downbeat of each measure. That should do it. Okay. That's it, I think, for the programming. What I want to do now is just add a little bit of randomization. So let's start with the hi-hats. If I select the HiHats track and come down to MIDI modifiers, I'm going to, in the random section, I'm going to randomize the position. I'm going to randomize the velocity. So the velocity, I'll do like a -20 to +20. I'm just using the scroll wheel, so there or thereabouts, doesn't have to be sort of too accurate. And the position, maybe I will go like 5, give and take 5, -5 to +5 for the hi-hats, and that just loosens things up a little bit, gives them a bit of sort of irregularity, maybe that you would get from fluctuations in current, you know, in those old drum machines, just trying to grab some of that sort of aesthetic, I guess. I could do the same thing with the kick drum part. Let's go to the MIDI modifiers. Let's randomize position a little bit, and the velocity again, but by lower numbers. Maybe I'll just lower it by -10 to +10, and I'll just do maybe 3 and 3 for the position, so to a lesser degree. There's just tiny amounts. I think the values of these go like down to 500. So obviously 3 isn't a whole lot. So, but it's just a little something. I'll do the same thing with the snare. My MIDI modifiers. Let's randomize position and randomize the velocity. Again, so maybe by a lesser amount, 10 and 10, and let's say 3 and 3. Nothing you could really discern or hear. Maybe it just adds to the vibe a little bit. Okay, so next I'm just going to hit G just to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to select all of those parts, and if I hover my cursor over this, the right edge of the part, you can see my cursor turns to that pointy finger, and that is the sort of duplication node. And if I hold down Shift and duplicate those. You see that I get this icon in the corner, like this sandwich icon, two sort of lines. That indicates that these are shared parts. So any edit I make to this part will be reflected, you know, across the board. So it's a really good way to keep things consistent. So I'm going to select both of those. I'm going to hit P again, and you can see my range locators are now updated to give me the full 4-bar loop. All right, so a big part of the 80s drums obviously is the sort of sound processing, the effects that are added to the mixer. So if I bring up the lower zone again and I go to the mix console, that's kind of big. Let me give myself a little bit of room there. So if I go to Studio, VST Instruments, and I get my VST instrument panel, and I click on this little icon here. It is my outputs. You can see that, well, for whatever reason, they've been renamed Clap FX or Cymbal FX, and I have this Kick FX as well. I don't need this output because I've just got them routed to the main output, which is drums, output 2 and output 3. So as long as these 3 are selected and no others, we don't want our mixing console to be cluttered up. So I'm going to close this. First of all, we can see these 2 channels are MIDI. These are our audio inputs, and we have 2 stereo outputs for some reason. If I click on this little dot up here, I can view which channel types I want. All I really want to look at are instrument channels. Or actually, all I want to view is instruments. I'm going to turn off all channel types. Everything's turned off. Now I'm just going to turn back on instrument channels. And also I'll do my output channel. So now I can close that down. Now my mixing console is much less cluttered. So if I hit play, I've got my drums, which if I solo that, those are my kicks. So I'm going to double click that, call it kicks, in fact. And then this is my snare. So I'm going to double click and rename that snare. And this is my hi-hats plus the crash, but I'll call it hi-hats. Okay. So while we're in the lower zone, if we come to this little side button here, I can view my insert effects. So on the kick, I'm going to add a tube compressor. If I type in search there, tube compressor, I'm going to do that. Let's select the search for drum, and there's a drum bus. Let's just use drum bus 1 preset. And let's just solo the kick. Let's add some drive, give it some grit. Let's raise the attack a little bit and lower the release. Let's turn off the sidechain for that. Maybe give it a little character. Okay, nice and punchy. So that's that done. Good. Next. Well, we'll come back to the snare. Let's just do the hi-hats for now. Let's pull up another tube compressor, and let's use the same drum bus comp. We'll do the same thing. Turn up the attack. Turn down the release. Turn the mix down a little bit of drive, give it some wedges of character. Maybe I'll turn the input down just a tad. Turn off the sidechain. As you can see, it's not really moving the needle too much, but it's adding a little bit of character, really grittying them up a little bit. So that's good. And finally, the snare. And this is where the fun happens. So let's grab another tube comp. And let's grab, there's a snare preset. Oops, spell, that would really help. Let's grab the snare 1 preset. Let's add some drive. And let's slower the attack. Turn off sidechain again and speed up the release. So again, just a little bit of grit, a little bit of punch. I like that. So, so the defining character of 80s drums was really the gated reverb. So to do that, I'm gonna, in the next insert slot, add a Roomworks, and let's pull up a Church Hall preset, Hall Church. There we go. I'm going to turn the width down because obviously it's a percussive instrument. We don't want it to be sort of big, wide and washy. Turn diffusion down just a little bit. Turn the mix up to maybe just below halfway. Let's close that. So right now it feels like it's in another world. It's really huge. So to clamp down on that, we're going to add in a gate. We search for gate, and then there it is. So the dot in the middle here tells us what the what's going on with the gate. Green means the gate is open, red means it's closed, and yellow is it's sort of closing. So what we want to do is we want the gate to open briefly and then clamp down on the tail with, you know, fairly quickly. So I'm gonna, if you click and drag up and down, we can set the point at which the gate opens. So if I drag all the way up here, it's not getting enough sound, and you can see it's red all the way. So I'm just gonna bring it down till it goes green, and then we're getting a good clean open gate. And we can fine tweak. It's a fiddly little effect, and it takes some pushing and pulling to get it sort of in a sweet spot. So that's sounding okay. We've got an attack of about 4 milliseconds. There's no hold time. The release around 100 milliseconds. The threshold is set to minus 27-ish, and analysis is about 70%, and the range is at 85. So getting the gate to close in a fashion that we don't get that stuttering of the reverb is really what I was trying to get. And it's a finicky little plug-in, and it takes a little bit of finessing, pushing and pulling to get the sound just right. And if I unsolo, so with the reverb, the drums do get a little lost. They're thicker and punchier, but it definitely loses a bit of the impact. So I can come to the faders and just bring the others down a little bit and push the snares up a little bit. Or I could maybe EQ them if I wanted to, or put a drum bus compressor on the group. I won't do any of that for right now, that's fine. Okay, let's leave it there. This has gone on quite long enough. Programming drums is obviously lots more work than just grabbing somebody else's loop, but it's worth it. It's much more rewarding. And if you're just arranging somebody else's work, you're not really a musician, are you? Are you even really a producer? I'll be back in the next video to get into all the synthy parts. And then in part 3, I'll get into the recorded audio parts, the guitars and vocals. Thanks for sticking with us this far. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you please. And I will see you in the next one.